So today is Diwali, Adrian. Do you celebrate Diwali, and what does this day mean to you, and what memories does it bring up?
Oh, I love the story. I love the story of Diwali. It always takes me back to growing up, to when I was a little boy growing up in KZN. And in typical Indian tradition, because my dad being Hindi, and he came from a very, very, I wouldn't say staunch, but very, very culturally traditional Indian family. And we actually grew up in a household where there were a couple of families. So there was my dad with his family, that being us, and then my dad's brother, my uncle, lived there as well with his family, and my grandparents. So we all lived in one house, and we shared a lot. We shared a lot. We looked out for each other, and with me being an only child, I actually really enjoyed that, because I always had my cousins right there to interact with and to play with. So I never felt lonely actually for a day. And my mom, my mom being Cape Coloured, so it was in those days that was considered a mixed marriage, believe it or not.
Yes.
Indian and Cape Malay mix was considered a mixed marriage. So my mom was a teacher. She was very forward-thinking lady, and so she wasn't home a lot. She was just, I suppose, a normal maternity leave at home, and then she went right back to teaching, and I was left in the care of my grandmother, who was charged with, I suppose, raising me, because I saw her for most of the day, and I only really saw my mom in the evenings. So I would spend quite a lot of time with my grandmother, and she took it upon herself to really educate me in Indian ways, Indian religion, Indian culture.
Sure.
And she was a really short lady, but very, very, very fiery. She was, for some reason, she was either revered by the community or feared.
Wow.
Depending on which side, if you were on a good side or a bad side.
Yeah.
But she really made me feel like a little prince growing up, and she played a very important part in my upbringing. Now, obviously, Diwali was very important to her, and she was being the matriarch of the family, used to play the lead in a lot of these things. So the night before Diwali was I think it was almost more fun than Diwali itself. Because the family would get together, and the other families in the yard, the people that were not as well off, we would all gather in our kitchen. We had a huge kitchen.
Sure.
And so there would be food cooking outside on fires. There would be gas stoves going in the kitchen, candles burning to light things up. And you can imagine that warm glow, and a lot of stories being told and jokes being made. And lots of laughter. But everybody had their little task to do. You had your job. Some pastry to fold or something to do that. So even the little children had their tasks, and it was such lovely memories. And of course, it was followed by Diwali Day, when all the children wore new clothes, and we looked forward to setting off all the fireworks, etc. Which, of course, as a child, that was the highlight. To get those fireworks going. But we shouldn't forget the real message. I mentioned new clothes. It's a time for new beginnings, new hope. That's really the message of Diwali, and such a romantic story, which I hope I recall correctly. But it's about this couple that get banished to this very, very dangerous snake-infested forest by an evil king, and they're banished to this forest for a whole month, and nobody thought that they would actually survive it.
Sure.
And much to everybody's astonishment and joy, let's just say the joy of the villagers, the common people, after a month they emerged out of the forest unscathed.
Sure. And
in order to celebrate, the villagers lit up a whole lot of clay lamps to light their way, and it was a form of celebration. Then I think they were fearful of the evil king. Well, that's a good story. I hope I didn't let any facts get in the way of making it interesting. But I think that's more or less the story. And myself personally, even though I practice the Christian faith, because my mom was Christian, and she raised me with the Christian faith, I've never forgotten my roots. My Indian roots are very close to me, and even though I travel the world these days and I visit a lot of very interesting countries and experience different cultures, different foods. But I tell you, all it takes is one good curry to take me right back to my roots.
Amazing.
So happy Diwali to all the Hindus around the world that are celebrating. And may your future be filled with light, laughter, and prosperity.
Wonderful. Awesome.